So I'll try to link all the sources in the description below. Hopefully I won't miss any. This is kind of a conglomerate of everyone that was at the preview event and also like the articles that we've been able to find. So here's where we'll start with. This really surprised me. Hideo knew in 2019 when he was wrapping up Death Stranding 1 what the opening scene of Death Stranding 2 would be. He already knew that he wanted Leia Sadu to come back, and the scene with her and Lou was going to be pre-filmed. They were actually going to have already filmed it prior to even developing the game currently, and unfortunately COVID hit and they were unable to do so, but he knew at that point that he wanted this specific scene already and that Fragile would be in the second game. First and foremost, he was very clear in all of his quotes and answering the questions to those that were there that this is not a Metal Gear Solid simulator and that they wanted it to be different, and that they asked themselves many times, is this too similar to Metal Gear Solid? Something that's very important to our channel, where we talk about the lore and theories and the trailer, is that everyone has reiterated that the trailer and its context for those scenes are very different than the actual game. So I think we can take from that hopefully Higgs didn't kill Lou, and that there are lots of things that are not what they seem in the trailer. So hopefully we'll get some more clarification on that soon. Now, as all men, it seems, love The Godfather, Hideo specifically wanted the previewers to understand that the strands were opposite on the Death Stranding 2 title, which I think most viewers who enjoyed the first game realized pretty quickly that the strands were going up instead of down now. And he said that this is to resemble the Godfather title, and how the strings were on that. Now, we've already talked about all of the symbology and, the metaphors for puppetry and things like that. I personally haven't watched The Godfather. I don't know much about it other than it's kind of a mafia family movie. If you know more about how puppets and, maybe being a puppet to a grander scheme relates to The Godfather and might relate thematically back to Death Stranding, I'd love to hear about it. Hideo is really big on looking at the world around him and commenting on it. One of the commentaries that he has in this game is about environments. We are introduced to a mechanic called mining that allows us to get a lot of resources very quickly, so much in fact that we have to use a monorail car in order to carry it all. However, we've been told or warned that if we overuse this mining mechanic to get resources, that something bad may happen. We're introduced to many new words that we haven't really had before. So chiral cinder, and I assume that is related to what's happening with the wildfires. We have timefall, which is familiar to us. We have a new word called core fall, and it basically does the reverse and makes things more youthful and younger. We have floods, which don't have a fancy name yet, like chiral cinder, but may in the future. And we have gate quakes. Now, we know that we have plate gates, and that's how we're going to travel in the game to different continents and possibly different areas. I'm not totally sure. I thought it was going to be a continent moving type of thing, but it may actually be able to move us more accurately between distros or areas. The gate quakes are, I'm assuming, an earthquake of some sort that happens, but we don't know why. No one has said in any of the videos or interviews that I've been able to find what causes a gatequake yet, and exactly what that does entail, other than it's kind of like an earthquake. Two things before we get into really specific categories are you can basically play the game in stealth, aggressive, or drive-by shootout mode. All three are going to be available to you, and you basically get to choose how you want your playthrough to be. So there's now more options for those who prefer, I guess aggressive gameplay versus sneaking around. And then because of this adaptability to gameplay, there's a little bit of like a FOMO aspect. Basically, if you are going stealth and not having combat with certain people, you may miss cutscenes. So, for instance, one Red Samurai cutscene, a previewer said that he was being stealthy and did not engage in combat, and therefore he missed a Red Samurai fight. And he said that from what the other players said about this Red Samurai fight, it was very similar to Gray Fox's introduction in the Metal Gear Solid series. So do with that what you will. There are also missable cutscenes if you ignore NPC requests. So if Dollman or someone else, we assume it's Dollman, I did not get like a confirmation on the name, but if they ask you to play music, you might get a show. And if you ignore their request, you may miss this opportunity. Briefly, we learned that vehicles now have realistic lights that turn off and on, and that you are able to trigger that yourself. It makes it easier to do nighttime combat or be noticed less at night, and you can also customize them. But there's not a lot of details on how you can customize them. We can only assume at this point you can customize the weapons because you can drive and shoot from your vehicle, and there also appears to be vehicles with weapons attached. One thing about the map is that we learned that once we get to Australia, we work from the bottom left of the map all the way east. Other than that, I haven't unlocked very much about the map from the interviews. There's a few things that we'll touch on later, but I did think it was interesting to note, as typically, I feel like in the UCA we worked right to left, so now we are working left to right. Let's talk about the menu. So, the menu has a few interesting things. When you start the game, you'll have the option to do Death Stranding 1 recap. The funny thing about this, and I think would be worth it to returning players just for the goofiness, is that it is a 8 or 9 slide PowerPoint basically by Deadman, who kind of gives you the lowdown of the Death Stranding 1 plot. And that's it. It's very bare bones, and if you've never played Death Stranding 1, it would definitely be worth it if you're not going to play Death Stranding 1 to just watch a playthrough. The previewers have said that the slideshow is not going to give you a great understanding of all the mechanics and such. It's really just a bare bones reminder of what happened in the last game. We have a really cool mechanic called skill points, and they're gained by, they call it, oh, they had a certain word for it, like eating memories or downloading memories. But it's really similar to Zelda, in my opinion. But as you find these memories and consume. As you consume the memories was the words they used. As you consume these memories, you gain skill points. There are limited memories and therefore limited skill points. These skill points can be used to unlock 4 different branches of a skill tree, basically. There is Porter, Combat, Stealth, and Servicemanship. Now, inside of those 4, you can unlock different things. The things that I've been able to determine that you can unlock so far is how far your Odra deck can scan, how much your skeleton leg thing can carry. Feels weird just to call it a skeleton. You can enhance how quiet you are when you walk. You can upgrade things such as ammo capacity, and you can also basically make your solar battery better. Those are the things that I've been able to find. You can also find the weather app basically in the menu, and when you check the weather, it will give you a similar depiction from Death Stranding 1, kind of allowing you to forecast the weather, figure out what's coming. Is it going to be raining? Are you going to be on fire? And the previewer that I watched that spoke about this said he wasn't sure that it was always accurate, but that he didn't really have time to check. And that wasn't something that he focused on whenever he was kind of playing through the game for his review. So I do know that there is still kind of a weather function on the menu, which we called kind of the cufflinks menu. I don't know if it will now be called something else, but you can still check the weather. Speaking of things from the first game, we still have the social strand system, which they called SSS. And that's basically where you see other players' structures in the game. That is still a thing. However, because they were all previewing the game for the first time, they were only able to see structures that were put in by the devs. Um, they did, however, say that you are still going to be able to see other people's items come up in the game. Another old mechanic of gameplay was the fact that you could use Fragile to teleport across or jump across large spaces of area and kind of return to prior areas without having to backtrack too much. It was an easy way to do things, and all you had to do was leave your items in that distro or that private room. We have a similar function they said that you unlock fairly early on, and they basically called it teleporting, and you still have to leave your gear. But that it's a small trade off for being able to jump around so early in the game. A fun thing about the menu is that we're now getting GTA style text from preppers and distro people. So the NPCs will now be able to send you a text message with photos and video of certain delivery related or, episodical quests and side mission type content. The example that I found in the interviews was that one person has their cargo stolen, and whenever you're trying to track it down, they send you a video of the people who have stolen their stuff on a CCTV video. And basically, they shoot it to you, and they're like, this is the person that stole all my stuff. The next thing that we have is the backpack is now removable. This isn't really a menu item, but because you do manage cargo through your menu, I thought I would include it here. The next thing that is sort of a menu item but has always been locked to the private room is your music. We now have a Walkman option, which is wonderful for the walking simulator. So now you can still listen to music, but you can make your own little playlist and listen to it while you're riding around, walking, and playing the game. There's no notes that I can find about if this changes anything in the environment, if enemies or monsters would notice you if you had your Walkman playing, but I think we can assume that there would be something happen if you're playing music out loud. The music cues, by the way, are still happening. They will still trigger whenever you're walking or in important scenes. And we learned a few more of the artists, which were kept under wraps and are still pretty secretive right now. I do think there's a few things that are being hidden from us for emotional impact, and everyone who previewed the game really stated how awesome it was. Even the people who didn't like it the first time around have said that it really grew on them. And so I do think if you are a fan of Death Stranding 1, that you're really going to enjoy this one. Now, we have 4 artists that I was able to kind of uncover. And in the interview, it was said that we would obviously have Woodkid, that we would have Caroline Polachek, Mongolian, and Hania, or Hanya. And I believe that I read somewhere that Low Roar would have some music featured as well, which would be awesome. I know that so many of us found that to be just an intrinsic, beautiful part of the first game. So it would be great if we could see some of that again in Death Stranding 2, especially since, unfortunately, the singer of Lead Roar the lead singer of Low Roar did pass away recently. And we know one of the things that Hideo said in his notes is that this was a deeply personal game for him, and that it's really based in loss, and that while he didn't go into details, it came from a personal place where he had to deal with a death. And so we don't know much about that, but I think we can assume that we will get a beautiful Low Roar, musical piece. Moving on from menus, let's move on to interactions. Here's what I've been able to find out so far about kind of just the interactions that will happen in the game. We know that there is deeper lore that is optional now. So if you were not someone who enjoyed hearing Die Hardman talk to you every 2 seconds about the historical, whatever of every single item, you're now going to be able to kind of bypass that and say, no, I'm good, thanks, and just move on. That'll be great for players who really didn't care about the, theory or lore behind weapons. But for those of us who do enjoy learning all the weird little tidbits and the strangeness, I mean, who didn't enjoy the really odd, odd things about Freud in Death Stranding 1? So, maybe we'll get some more of that. But basically, when you're doing the dialogue, you'll have the option to kind of ask them to continue, to go on, or to question them about things that are going on. And so that sort of unlocks that deeper content that some of us want, but others may want to move past. On top of deeper lore, we're also going to have side missions. So instead of being sent from prepper to prepper constantly in order to progress the story, you'll actually be kind of recommended things. So you'll be told, okay, here's where you go next, but I have a friend over here that you could go and deliver a package to. And these side missions apparently unlock certain items. It's kind of like if you do the extra work, you get the extra bonus. I have been able to unlock a few things so far that we will receive. The first thing that the first side mission that one of the players was able to do gave him a sniper rifle. I can't talk, I'm so excited. Gave him a sniper rifle. He then also got a blood boomerang where he is able to pour Sam's blood onto the boomerang and throw it at BTs in order to kind of have a big hit on them. We also get holographic grenades, which show BTs and scare off human enemies. We have a tar turret that is able to take out those chiral cinders and sort of platoon style, cover up the fire for a little bit. We also have a flashlight. I'm pretty sure that comes unlocked. That's not something that you get from a side mission. And one player jokingly said, there's no more pea grenades. So take that as you will. When it comes to cutscenes, they have said that there will be timers and timestamps displayed. I guess that's so if you don't want to watch a 20-minute cutscene, you can skip it, or you can see how much is left in the cutscene to watch. There's also a wiki where you can look up certain words and dictionary stuff, and then it has a real-time sort of, I guess I'd call it almost like a wiki dictionary almost. And what happens is that as they mention things, for example, one person said they called it fragile is having jump shock, and they immediately went, what the heck is that? And the menu popped up a little thing explaining what that word meant. So that'll be nice for those of us that kind of enjoy learning, as we go, and just maybe make it a little easier to not get lost in all of the newness and all of the new words. When it comes to interactions, we also are going to be able to have a few things that I thought were cute. So you're able to pick up toys for preppers, which I thought was interesting lore wise. Not that this is a lore video, but we know that kids are not something that are everywhere in this game, and they're kind of rare. And so we are picking up toys for people, and you're actually able to take the toy out and look at it, and it's like a stuffed platypus, which is super cute. We've already seen the plushy crypto bites, and so maybe we'll be able to take photos with these things. No one that I watched or read about seemed to care much for the camera function on the photography, which is such a bummer because it has a huge virtual photography fan base, and I couldn't find anything about if it was much better, if they were awesome, if the menu was any different. So if you guys are able to find anything about the virtual photography, I would love to hear about it. You can comment down below and let me know. Something beyond the preppers and interactions there, are we also have animal interactions. So there is a basically a kangaroo mission that everyone spoke about. There is a wildfire or a bushfire in Australia, and you are trying to save a kangaroo and get it to a sanctuary. But in order to do so, you have to find a way around the fire by walking on the rocks, using the tar turret, or basically just finding the safest path and sort of uh, manipulating this kangaroo to go where you want it to go. On top of being able to save a kangaroo, there's going to be a sanctuary where if you find animals in the wild, you can take these animals. I think they called it you can trap them basically. I don't know if we'll have little like cages or things like that. But you can save the animals, take them to the sanctuary, and I'm assuming be able to interact with them in that area and probably take photos as well. Um, they did mention you can kill the animals and then immediately said, please don't do that. So, I don't know if you're going to lose honor points like you do in Red Dead Redemption if you are, doing something unsavory, but they did obviously try to kill them or accidentally hit them or something. I do know that one previewer said that as they were driving, that an animal ran out in front of their vehicle. So it is interesting that we'll finally have wildlife outside of butterflies. The other stuff that I have written down is in regards to enemies, the episodes, the BTs, some more of the animal monsters, and then character notes. If you are not interested in spoilers for any of that, although I would say I'm looking over my notes. I don't think there's anything here that is going to ruin anyone's playthrough, but if you don't want spoilers, this is your time to run. So let's start off with the enemies. There appear to be multiple different enemies. So some of the things that I was able to find from these interviews and these videos are that we have at least 3 different names for enemies. We have armed survivalists, we have bandits, and in one of the menus, whenever they're playing, there is an order that says stolen by the Brigands, and it's Brigands. So I am wondering if these will be like OG Bridges or Bridget Foundation sort of people, because I I don't recognize that word, but if that's a real word already, feel free to tell me down below because I did not research that prior to this. But those are the 3 names I've seen for enemies, human enemies. We have guards now that will react whenever they see a friend go down. So if you strand attack someone or you shoot one of their friends and you leave their body, they will find it and then alert others that something is going on. There were many comments that the patrols felt more like a real stealth game and that the NPCs seemed to have more life to them. It did say some enemies were night only, but I don't know if that applies to monsters or human enemies. There are different enemy factions, which I don't know if there are more beyond the armed survivalists, the bandits, and the Brigands. Or is it Brigands? We're going to call them the Brigands. Everyone said the pacing was better. It was noted that enemies are able to recover weapons and basically level up as the game goes, similar to how enemies did get tougher in Death Stranding 1. These are basically having the same thing happen. I don't know if they can steal weapons that you drop. In some games, that's been a neat way that things have happened, that you can have enemies pick up weapons that you've dropped. Like in Zelda, you could drop a bomb and then an enemy would pick it up. I'm not sure to the extent that recovering weapons works for these enemies, but they do appear to be able to pick them up or steal them. One of the things we know about the BT monsters is that there appear to be at least 2 kinds. There are Watchers, which are the really neat red ones that we've seen. We now know that they have eyes, and they can spot you. And once they spot you, they turn into the really large humanoid tar creatures that grab Sam and chase him down. That's really cool. They have almost like flashlight eyes in the preview. We have jellyfish type BTs, which I'm unclear if they resemble the jellyfish from Death Stranding 1, but that's how they were referred to, are jellyfish, and say that they don't really do anything unless you disturb them. We also have chiral creatures like Tar Kitty, but the ones that we were told about, I don't think there are hordes of cats, unfortunately. That would have made me happy, but there are spiders and bats, which is kind of funny because as an American, the only thing I know about Australia, like creatures, is that spiders are everywhere and they're giant. So apparently, if you disturb a chiral creature's even just a single spider or bat, they will swarm you and they will take your batteries, which is just kind of funny. I don't know if we'll just have a lot of batteries in this game, but they will take your battery, and I guess that would really make it difficult to do certain things. We find out that in terms of mechanics, that the wind can help you by, if it's behind you and pushing you forward, it can make you go much faster. And if it's working against you, that you will actually move much slower. We also know that there's a day and night cycle, and like I said before, some things only seem to come out at night. Now, I'm going to kind of talk about what we have found out about the episodes so far, and then I'm going to go into characters. So, episode wise, we know that the people who played the preview were able to play about 30 hours worth of content, and that Hideo said that this was about 30% of the full game. Opinions vary based on what Hideo meant by this. Some people felt that it was 30 hours, and that the full game would be 90 hours, and that was like if you played it as a completionist, and others thought that that would just be the base game and not the completionist mode. So it's unclear, but multiple, two people said that they felt like when they played the 30 hours, they were just starting Act 2 of a 3-act game. We know that the first episode is called Sam, and we know that I'm assuming last episode, episode 6 in the preview, is conflagration, and that is the episode that has Neil, which is interesting because in Death Stranding 1, we did meet Cliff kind of at that same point. Episode 6, I think, is Mama, and we had just met Cliff. Now, here's, actually, I'm not even going to go there yet. Let's keep talking about the episodes. So the way episode 1 through 6 seems to go is that we have Sam and Lou. We start out with Sam and Lou on a hill, and our first mission is just to go home. We start home and we're introduced kind of tutorial style to Quake gates and just, the mechanics, how to walk, things like that. When we get home, we're basically interrupted from making breakfast by Fragile, who shows up, and I believe this quote is going to be hers. She basically says she's brought the best chiral printed diapers. And she tells Sam that she needs his help because Dead Man, who is in Mexico at a lab, is going to be needing to be hooked up to the network. And there's a BT monster headed that way, and she'll keep Lou while Sam goes out because she doesn't, want Lou to get hurt, and Sam doesn't need Lou there while he's trying to fight this monster. We then have something happen, I'm assuming the attack, but as we know, we've been told that the trailer is very misleading, but we're just going to say, for those of us who haven't got to preview the game, that this is probably where Lou dies, in air quotes. Then something occurs that moves us from this area, and we know that suddenly Australian animals are appearing in Mexico because of plate gates, and they're kind of just, I guess, slipping through. And I think this is sort of what gets Sam to go to Australia. I couldn't really find that in any of the playthroughs or the interviews, but he makes his way to Australia, and then in this episode 1 through 6, there are 4 boss battles that people felt like they found, and one that they felt like was an optional boss battle, and the person that was speaking about it said that it kicked their butt. and it was kind of one that they weren't expecting. I don't know what to take from that because conflag conflict. Oh, I can't say that word. Conflagration. The one with Neil, the episode with Neil. So episode 6. That doesn't seem to be the surprise battle. So, and I don't think the Higgs thing is going to be the surprise battle either. But who knows? So there are like 4 or 5 boss battles in the first 6 episodes, which is awesome. Now, beyond that, we can talk a little bit about what I think is episode 6. So that is when we meet Neil. All that people have said is that it is the most beautiful, incredible, just awesome scene. Every single person that was writing, I keep wanting to call it interviews, but every person that previewed and wrote an article, they all spoke very highly of this. And the only other notes that we got about it is that it was darkly lit, that all of the fireworks are actually going off in real time, that the entire scene is lit by candles, and that it's very similar to kind of how we were meeting Cliff in Death Stranding 1. Talk lastly about the characters. I'm not going to go in any specific order because I'm not really sure what order things go in, and my notes are a little messy, but starting with Tomorrow, we know that she's from the land of the dead. We find her fairly early on in a nightmare landscape in the cocoon, and we bring her back. She's silent, she doesn't speak to the crew, and she controls Tar. It says that Higgs basically says in a cutscene to Sam, so we must meet Higgs in the first 6 episodes. During that part where he is, I assume, in the warehouse with Sam, he says Sam is going on a walkabout, which I've never heard that term before, but apparently it's kind of like Australian slang. And Google just says it's kind of like a man's rite of passage. If anyone knows more accurately what a walkabout is, you should let me know. We also find out that ghost mechs, Hideo was very clear, are not machines, and are more like puppets, and just kind of left it at that. We do know that in one of the screen caps that the mission tagline in the menu says, "Destroy the mysterious machine." And we obviously recognize that must be a Higgs machine, so that must come before Higgs and him meet, and it does appear to be after he meets Higgs in the mask out in the little lake area. So we can probably assume that Higgs didn't tell him who he was at that point. We have found out, or we've got confirmation that Lucy is Neil's therapist, which shoots a hole in my theory that they're actually married or whatever. And apparently we find that out I think near the end, but it's probably one of the memories that we can consume for skill points. No confirmation on that though. Not totally sure about the Lucy Neil thing. We find out that Charlie, who is the civilian funding the DHV Magellan, so the AI mannequin dude is the person behind the Magellan and the one funding everything, which is funny because I wonder if that is any link to Charlie's Angels, and how he sort of mysteriously funds things. And we find out that it's voiced by Tommy, who is Die Hardman. We also find out Die Hardman is dead. We don't know if Charlie and Die Hardman are technically the same character, or just 2 characters voiced by the same guy. Not clear on that yet. We understand in these first 6 episodes that Tarman lost his hand due to reasons, and because his hand is in the nightmare world or the beach, that he's able to navigate the tar currents due to this. So we were definitely right about our theory that because his hand is in that other world, he's able to kind of have a connection to both. He also makes a joke that he has a phantom pain in his hand as a reference to Metal Gear Solid. We also are told that he has a very sad or tragic backstory. Fragile is suffering from jump shock. We don't know from the interviews, I'm not clear from the interviews, if Fragile is suffering the jump shock before or after this happens with Lou and she gets attacked. So it may be that Fragile jumped a bunch trying to save Lou and now has jump shock, or she may have had it before. Basically, we're told that jump shock means that you jump too many times and now you are unable to jump because basically you are sick from jumping to the beach. We are aware that Sam's blood must still be powerful in some way, or magic, for lack of a better word, because he can still use it against beach enemies like BTs and the big monsters. We know that when the game starts that he is living at the UCA-Mexico border and that he is hiding from the UCA. Dollman can be used as a reconnaissance camera, and he's able to mark items such as enemies and notable cargo. He also has a lot of lore and facts, and that you can go into your room and get new dialogue for him most times. One of the things that's kind of funny is I don't even know what word I would use for doll man. He's basically like a perverted old man, I think. And he basically makes a joke that if you talk to him enough, he'll say, "Don't you wonder why I look so young?" And he'll make the joke that he takes showers with Rainey, and that's how he stays young. We then find out that Rainey cannot control her powers, and she has the power of timefall. When she I guess gets upset, she's basically unable to control this and she causes timefall around her. However, she has a special ability, and if you're within 1.5 meters of Rainey, she actually has a mechanic called core fall. And core fall is the opposite of timefall, and it will actually reverse time. And she was chased out due to her having these powers from her community that she was in prior, and um, all we really know is they kind of treated her like a witch almost, and she was kind of banished. So we're not totally sure how we meet her. I've got no confirmation from any of the interviews or previews that I watched confirming kind of like how we meet these characters. Some of them, it says that we save from enemies and bring them back with us. Obviously, with Tomorrow, it sounds like we find her somewhere and we bring her back. But that's kind of all we have for now. There's no new real information on Higgs or Hartman, or really Deadman, other than the fact that we find out that he has a lab in Mexico, which probably means Hartman's lab is actually in Australia. And with that, that is everything that we know from the interviews and the videos that I was able to find today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will definitely break down this new game footage and try to see if there's anything we haven't seen already. But I wanted to post this for those of you who maybe haven't seen all the footage or don't have time to research this. I was lucky enough to have the day off today, and this is what I chose to do. So I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, and I almost forgot, there's a new controller. Death Stranding 2 exclusive controller for PS5. I am definitely going to try to earn a couple $100 here soon. I did not get the collector's edition at first because I didn't like that it didn't come with a hard copy of the disc, but now I'm starting to get FOMO and I really want the controller, and I'm worried about playing the game after everybody else has already played it. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Maybe I'll chunk out some change for it. But without, any more talking, I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!